The horsemen now ride through the open gate, among the first Aeneas and Achates, then other Trojan lords. Pallas himself is at the centre of his troops, set off by cloak and ornamented arms, just as the morning star, whom Venus loves above the fire of any other star, when he, bathed in the ocean's wave, lifts up his sacred head high in heaven and dissolves the darkness. The mothers tremble, standing on the walls, and watch the cloud of dust, the gleaming brass. The armed troops cut across the underbrush. A shout goes up. They form a line. The hoof's four-footed thunder shakes the crumbling plain. Close by the cooling stream of Kyra stands a spacious grove, held sacred far and wide in ancient reverence. And on all sides the hills hem in the forest of dark firs. The old Pelasgians, the story goes, who long ago first held the Tuscan borders, had consecrated to Silvanus, god of fields and flocks, both grove and festive day. Not far from here, King Tarchon and the Tuscans had pitched their camp on sheltered ground, and now their tents stretched out across the wide fields. Father Aeneas and his chosen men march here and rest their horses and their tired bodies. But Venus, the bright goddess bearing gifts, drew near in airy clouds, and when far off she saw her son in a secluded valley, withdrawn beside a cooling stream, then she showed herself freely to him, saying this: "You see, my son, these perfect offerings, my husband's promised art. Then do not doubt, but dare brave Turnus and the proud Laurentians to battle." These were Cytherea's words. She sought her son's embraces, then set up his glittering arms beneath a facing oak. Aeneas cannot have enough. Delighted with these gifts of the goddess, this high honor, his eyes rush on to everything, admiring. With arm and hand he turns the helmet over, tremendous with its crest and flood of flames, the sword that deals out fate, the stiff brass corselet. Blood red and hued as when a blue-gray cloud, which rays of sun have kindled, glows far off. The polished greaves made of electrum and of gold, re-smelted many times, the spear, the shield, its texture indescribable. For there the Lord of Fire had wrought the story of Italy, the Romans' victories, since he was not unskilled in prophecy, or one who cannot tell the times to come. There he had set the generations of Ascanius and all their wars in order. There too he made a mother wolf reclining in Mars' green cavern, and at play beside her twin boys were hanging at her dugs. Fearless they suckled their mother. She at this bent back her tapered neck to lick them each in turn and shape their bodies with her tongue. Not far from this he set the Romans and the Sabine women they carried off, against all law, while in the crowded theatre the great Circensian games were under way. And sudden war then broke out again between the Romans and aged Tatius, king of austere Curies. Next, Romulus and Tatius, these same kings, their quarrel set to rest, stood at Jove's altar, both armed and cup in hand, and having offered a sow as sacrifice, swore league and friendship. Not far from this, two chariots that rushed in different directions tore apart Metis, but then you should have kept your word, O man of Alba. Tullus hauled the guts of that conniving man into the forest. The briars dripped with splattered blood. There, too, Porsenna, asking Rome to readmit the banished Tarquin, hemmed the city in with strangling siege. Aeneas's sons rushed on the sword for freedom's sake. You might have seen Porsenna as one wild and menacing, since Coclus dared tear down the Tiber's bridge. And Clelia broke her chains and swam the river. Carved in the upper part was Manlius, the guard of the Tarpeian rock, who stood before the temple gates, defender of the high capital. The new carved palace was shaggy with the straw of Romulus. And here a silver goose fluttered across the gilded colonnades, signaling that the Gauls were at the threshold. Through the brush the Gauls crept toward the tower, under cover of darkness and dense night. Their hair is golden, and golden too their clothes, set off by gleaming, striped cloaks. Their milk-white necks are bound in gold. Each brandishes 2 alpine javelins, and with an oblong shield defends his body. Here in relief were carved the nude Luperci and dancing Salian priests with woolen caps and shields that fell from heaven. Through the city, chaste matrons in their cushioned carriages led sacred rites. Away from these scenes, Vulcan added the house of Tartarus, the high doorways of Dis, the penalties of crime. The Catiline, you hanging from a cliff that threatens, trembling at the Furies' faces, and set apart the pious who receive their laws from Cato. Bordering these scenes, he carved a golden image of the sea, yet there were blue-gray waters and white foam, where dolphins bright with silver cut across the tide and swept the waves with circling tails.